So hello there, I just want to make a quick video. What are we looking at, you might ask? Well, I wanted to make another video exposing the fraud that is the theory of evolution. Now, most people think of evolution, they think of change over time, species variation. The attitude of creationism in science is just not welcome, and science has become scientism, and it's not really science anymore. If you're not allowed to ask questions that there's facts to back up, if they're covering things up like the flaws in evolution, then you know you got a problem. And it breaks down like this. Most people don't understand that evolution has 6 definitions. Now, one of them is observable, one of them is provable. Species change, species variation. But the word evolution is a loaded term. If a creation story like the Big Bang isn't provable, then it is by definition a religion. So we have scientism. The truth of the matter is evolutionary biology is a bunk subject. It shouldn't even exist. And yeah, so evolutionary biology, a failed science. These things need to be broken down and built back up. And another amazing seminar talking about proofs that evolution is bunk is Dr. Ken Hovind. He's a ball earther, but nobody's perfect. He loves them globes. I don't know. But other than that, his work debunking evolution is amazing. He was going to start a lawsuit against textbook companies, and then mysteriously the IRS throws him in jail. Yeah, that's not weird or anything. But back to this guy, playing this clip here.
Perhaps a change of scenery would give me a fresh perspective.
Quand je t'ai vu au coin de la rue, tout dévidé, j'ai cru que tous les deux, sur le ciel bleu, nous serions très heureux.
Mr. Berlinski, I assume? How are you, sir? So where are you from originally?
I was born in New York.
Yes.
Spent 31 years in Manhattan.
Yes.
And I spent a lot of time in California, too.
And tell me all the various universities where you studied or taught.
No, I was at Princeton, then I had a professorship at Stanford, and then I left Stanford, and I taught at Rutgers. I left Rutgers, and I taught at the City College in New York. I left the City College of New York. I taught at the Baruch College. I taught at San Jose.
What did you teach at Baruch College?
Anything they wanted. Come on in.
Thank you, monsieur. What an old building. Wow.
It's the oldest in Paris.
You're kidding. Merci, monsieur.
Ah, je vous en prie, monsieur.
Merci. Wow, this is fabulous.
Let's put it this way. Before you can ask, is Darwinian theory correct or not, you have to ask the preliminary question, is it clear enough so that it could be correct? That's a very different question. One of my prevailing doctrines about Darwinian theory is, man, that thing is just a mess. It's like looking into a room full of smoke. Nothing in the theory is precisely, clearly, carefully defined or delineated. It lacks all of the rigor one expects from mathematical physics, and mathematical physics lacks all of the rigor one expects from mathematics. So we're talking about a gradual descent down the level of intelligibility until we reach evolutionary biology. We don't even know what a species is, for heaven's sakes.
So his theory is smoke, but elegant smoke.
There's a certain elegance to it, but you know, I think Einstein had the appropriate remark. He preferred to leave elegance to his tailor.
A room full of smoke? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Darwin wrote The Origin of Species in 1859, published it in 1859. He had an idea of the cell as being quite simple, correct?
Yeah, everybody did.
Okay. If he thought of the cell as being a Buick, what is the cell now in terms of its complexity by comparison?
A galaxy.
If Darwin thought a cell was, say, a mud hut, what do we now know that a cell is?
More complicated than a Saturn V.
So what is in a cell as far as we know now?
A world that Darwin never could have imagined.
I needed someone who could give me a glimpse into this world. So we went to molecular biologist Doug Axe.
Think of a cell as being a nanofactory, a factory where on a very small scale, digital instructions are being used to make the components of the factory. Here we have the famous DNA double helix. You can see the two helical strands that are intertwined and wind around each other on the outside of the molecule. This is the material that stores all of our genetic information. In higher life forms, this will be the equivalent of something like a gigabyte of information stored in the molecules that form the individual chromosomes, all packed within the nucleus, which is a tiny fraction of the entire cell size. So what does DNA do? Well, the information in DNA ends up providing the information for sequencing the amino acids to make protein. We have information in a one-dimensional form that provides the information for a three-dimensional form.
The cell really is like nothing we've ever seen in the physical world. That's got to be firmly grasped. That's not something we can just say, oh, well, it's just a little bit more of the same old, same old. It's not the same old, same old.
We are finding is that there's information that's in the cell that cannot be accounted for in terms of these undirected material causes. So
It has to be.
and so there's some other, so it has to be an information source.
So one of the key questions faced by modern biology is, where do you get information from?
Well, Darwin assumed that the increase in information comes from natural selection. But natural selection reduces genetic information, and we know this from all the genetic population studies that we have.
And where does the new genetic information going to come from?
Well, that's the big question.
So when we find information in the DNA molecule, the most likely explanation is that it too had an intelligent source.
I mean, we need engineering principles to understand these systems, okay? I mean, it's only because of our advancements in nanotechnology that we can even begin to appreciate these systems.
But using intelligent design didn't seem to stop the scientists I spoke with, so why all the controversy?
Suppose we find, simply as a matter of fact, that our scientific inquiries point in one direction.
Which is that there is an intelligent creator.
Why should we eliminate that from discussion? Streng verboten? How come? Why?
Streng verboten. Very good. What does streng verboten mean? Strongly forbidden.
Strongly forbidden.
You've got two possible hypotheses. You've got a wall through the middle of through your brain, in effect, through your thinking. You say, well, you can't consider anything on this side of the wall. Only hypotheses on this side of the wall are permissible for consideration.
What about academic freedom? I mean, can't we just talk about this?
Their reply is that science is not a democratic process.
Oh, really?
And that there is a consensus view.
But wait a minute,
we are to subscribe to the
wait a
consensual
second, but
view.
Darwin challenged the consensus view, and that's how we got Darwinism.
So long story short, modern science is a religion. Modern science has become scientism. And like this silly little cartoon proves my point about DNA and coded information, is simply put, DNA is coded information, and coded information cannot spontaneously manifest from nothing. Much like their Big Bang theory, that the entirety of the universe was burped into existence. Whether or not you want to look at science from a layperson's perspective, or whether you have a science background, Richard Feynman said it best: I'd rather have questions that don't have any answers than answers that aren't allowed to be questioned. If your scientism is getting in the way of actual science, there's a problem. And I will always speak out against such things because I think it's insane and I think it's so counterproductive. And when you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, you realize that a lot of it is being manipulated by high-level Luciferians that want you feeling like an insignificant, evolved ape animal, because then you'll act like an animal. So I'll leave in the citations below this documentary and that 17-hour seminar by Dr. Ken Hovind, proving a young Earth, that nothing on Earth is older than 10,000 years. So I mean, to believe in evolution is to not know about all the things debunking it. And then if you find this out, like this video shows, and you still want to go that way, you have to wonder if it's because you have a grudge against God or the idea of creationism. It's a sad state of affairs when most scientists used to believe in God, and now it seems like the atheists have taken over. And atheism is evil, in my opinion. If you're an atheist and you think that there's no God, then how do you tell the difference between right and wrong? And at that logic, if you're just a monkey and there is no God, then there should be no reason why one human who is stronger than another, according to survival of the fittest, should be allowed to just kill whoever they want because, natural selection, right? So it's all so paradoxical, and sadly, most people will just believe in this stuff without ever thinking about it, which breaks my heart. In a way, it also breaks the first commandment, because you're believing in an alternative creation story. So that being said, I'll just say, peace out, baby.